This is Samuel Mangera with Mr.
John Buckmon.
And we are here to conduct the interview. We chose Mr. Buckman because of his expertise in career fields that deal with people every minute they are working. He's a former air-ground radar intercept controller in the Air Force and a former cost accountant. He's also a systems developer who served as a project manager directing teams of programmers. Overall, he has had very interesting jobs, a unique background within technology, and of course as a cost accountant, dealing with people is unavoidable. His 60 plus years of knowledge is sure to help us in this project. Mr. Buckman, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Samuel?
I'm doing good as well, sir. My first question to you, in your role as a systems developer, directing a team of computer programmers, how did you ensure that your programmers had clear role perceptions regarding their specific job?
Well, when I was given the assignment to develop a system that would give close to real-time information on manufacturing efficiencies and variances, I chose carefully a team that would have flexibility and they would use their innovation in their job to help me complete the project. So what we did was we sat down, we had a series of meetings, and I asked for their input and ideas before I laid out the whole concept. Having done this, we came up with a plan that would ensure accuracy when the job was finished by using the manual calculation as our test to compare with the output of the computer program. I chose a librarian. She was a computer programmer, but she was also a former librarian, and she was very good at organizing data, and of course a librarian is very organized, so I chose her. And she was also very good with people. And then I chose another gentleman. He was very dedicated to programming and details of programming. So I had a team of 2 people, plus the resources of the department that handled all the programming. So it was not difficult to lay out their responsibilities. I gave them many flexibilities in doing their jobs, and we had a good relationship, and we had a time frame of completing the job. However, we had to work with the managers of all these various departments, which was very interesting to say the least. They had their own ideas also. The problem with that was their ideas did not really fit in with modernizing the cost accounting system. So in meetings, we did not debate them when they gave the ideas. We always gave them a nod that their ideas was very interesting and would get consideration.
Okay.
However, in our war game room, we usually throw their ideas out because we knew they wouldn't work, but we did not tell them that they wouldn't work. And they were happy because when we finished the project, everything worked according to plan, and they were happy with it. So no one was offended, and we were very happy with their results.
That's very nice, Mr. Buckman. Well said. Now, you said that when you gave them freedom, which otherwise is known as an autonomy, they were able to complete their task within the time that you asked for it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, in many instances, they finished ahead of time. Considering that there were limitations because of other things going on in the company, However, um, the our, our managers above us, they tried not to interfere with us too much, but sometimes it was necessary to go away from the project and do some other things that were very important to the running of the business. But everything was done in a good time frame, and the project was successful, and that was the main deal, to get the project done and finish on a timely basis. Also, that was once we finished the project at the Vina location. We had a location in Warsaw, Indiana, and also in Morgan, North Carolina. So I had to fly to these different locations to implement the system in those plants also.
When it comes to organizational behavior, we have this thing called goal setting. So we set our goal, what we want to do, and we plan out step by step how to get there without causing too much friction within our own teammates. When you went to the other plants to complete what you needed to do there, how did you use goal setting to get your team to complete your goal?
Well, and the interesting thing about going to another plant, which is another set of quote-unquote authorities, it was important not to force or push the idea that this would be better than the system they had already. So it's sort of like I don't want to use the word politics, but it's a little politicking, and you just have to use judgment and show respect to the people that you're dealing with. And everything went well, and because the consideration was that they would be the one to operate and run the system, and that they would be the beneficiary of good data, instead of saying, this is mine, here to use it. So I didn't really have a problem there, and they understood the urgency of it, because it was a mandate from the corporate office that we would implement the system. So it wasn't my system that I was trying to implement in their plant. As a matter of fact, the suggestion was to name it the Buckmon system, which I declined, because if it was my system, nobody really wanted it. But if it's the company's system, that means we are all in this together. So everything went smoothly, and I'm pleased that it was a successful implementation in all 3 locations.
Very well said, Mr. Buckman. Thank you so much. My third question for you, we are going to a different topic about your time in the Air Force. During your time in the Air Force, there was a natural structural divide between commissioned officers and enlisted personnel. Did you notice any stereotyping or perceptual biases between those two groups? And if so, what did you do to deal with them?
Generally speaking, everyone understands that the enlisted rank and the commissioned officers were 2 distinct groups, and we understood officers did not fraternize with enlisted personnel. However, there were almost every case where enlisted personnel and commissioned personnel work together as teams. So when it comes to performing our duties as a team, there wasn't really any problem about stereotyping because you were enlisted or you were an officer, as long as everyone performed their duties according to directives that was given to us through the Air Force manual, etc., and the commands from the commander of the base. I only had one slight problem with the stereotyping, and of course this commissioned officer, he was selected to be an astronaut, and he didn't feel that he had to listen to the command of enlisted personnel. When a mission was implemented, I was the controller, so whatever instruction I give to the pilot, he is obligated to obey it because I'm the one that's controlling and I'm the one that can see who's who on the radar. But this one astronaut pilot just didn't feel that he was supposed to listen. He did what he wanted to. And we had a slight problem, and he flew his aircraft into a thunderstorm after I told him not to. And there was significant damage to the nose of the plane, which contained a lot of wiring and data collecting in the nose of that plane. It's just not a nose; it has a lot of instruments in there. And of course, there was an issue, and of course, he said it was my fault, but everything was recorded, so the issue was resolved that it was his error in not obeying my command when I told him to turn the aircraft in another direction. But it was a pleasant outcome. After the commander of the base instructed all the pilots that day to obey the commands of the controller, he conceded that he would listen from that point on. So it was an interesting experience, and there was no hard feelings afterward.
Now, connecting your job from the Air Force to your job about your role as a system developer, there are some similarities within handling conflict. Now, when you connect the two, I see that instead of using force to solve a problem, you either used problem solving, compromise, avoid, or yield to deal with the people opposing you and your ideas. Now, which out of those four would you say you used? Was it problem solving, compromising, avoiding, or yielding?
In some instances, I use one of them, depending on the situation. In some cases, I use yielding because if it didn't make any difference in the outcome of the success of the project, I just yielded. I compromised when it was necessary to move the project forward expeditiously so that we could meet the deadlines. So, of course, I would compromise. But in many cases, I just avoid because it wasn't necessary to do a confrontation, because in the end, there are some specifics that opinions did not matter. It was real facts and data collection that really mattered in the end. So in many cases, I just avoided until we saw the outcome, and that way everyone was happy. So in some cases, I use one of those depending on the situation.
That is what I would have done as well. During your time in the Air Force, did you learn anything or see anything that translated to your time working for Kimball and Buckmon Public Accounting, which I know was your tax business? How were the interactions of teams and of different superiors in the Air Force similar or different to those in these companies?
Well, my time in the Air Force fortunately occurred before my civilian jobs. The Air Force gave me time to learn discipline and to follow instructions and follow orders. And the thing about the military is that you had a distinct line of authorities, and you followed them, and it built character. And I always said that anyone going into the military, it's their decision whether they want to make it a pleasant journey or unpleasant journey. I decided I wanted to be a pleasant journey, so following the orders and doing my job the best I could was important to me. Having said that, in civilian world, I understand that you had choices now different from being in the military. If you didn't want to do something in the civilian life, you say, I don't want to do it, and I'll just suffer the consequences, which is I just won't have a job, etc., whatever the consequences are. But it also gave me the ability to learn how to, for example, you use one of the ways to solve problems, etc., was compromise. It taught me how to compromise and how to yield and all these various techniques that you need to accomplish your goals. So, but there's I would say a direct parallel between the military and civilian jobs, because in civilian jobs you also had a line of authority, which is very important in any organization. There should be some lines of authority. And I will say this to anyone: once you agree to engage with an organization, whether it be a job or a social club or whatever, I would say, just know the rules and the mission of that organization. And if you say, yes, I'm in, then follow it with all your heart and follow the rules of authorities and that's set forth. That organization will be successful, that job will be successful to you, and you will be a happy person.
That is some very great insight on how to be successful. Now for my last question. In the whole entirety of your career and past career, what did you find was the best strategy towards team building? And how critical was team building and cohesion with your different jobs?
Well, this information I'm giving you now about that is something I learned from the Japanese. They had a thing called quality circles, and what they do in their business was they would get together, and there was no idea that was a bad idea, and when there was a problem to be solved, everyone in the room was encouraged to just throw your ideas in there, and you take all these ideas and then you see if the two of them will work, or one of them will work, or all of them will work together somehow. And we actually did this for a period of time in my job at Kimball. And we had some good success in it. We had some problems that needed solving. And we were surprised that some of the people that were quiet and didn't seem to have any ideas at all, they had ideas that were really good ideas. And we put them on paper. And then we put down how can we put this in the organization to make this work for solving the problems. And we came up with a lot of problem solving. Also, everyone felt like they were part of the team because their ideas meant something to everyone else on the team. So I would say this is, to me, this is still a good way to get good teamwork going. That everyone's ideas are important, even if they're not used in the solving the problem, but each member of the team is heard when they speak. And I think that's a very important way to go. But a lot of companies, I don't think they are going that way now. It's like, just do it my way or the highway. But I still think that even the least person in the organization has some ideas that will help the company or an organization to grow and be successful and prosperous.
You hit the nail right on the head, Mr. Buckman. I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, I want to thank you for your time during our interview.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. I appreciate it.
All right.